The entire world was shocked by the president of Rwanda's statement. Korea is the only country that truly treated us with sincerity. Rwanda, a land ruined by war and genocide. Everyone said they'd help, but when they came, all they did was take fancy photos and give media interviews. They weren't there to help us, they were there to say they helped. It was all for show, intended to impress the international community. Isn't that just so low? However, there was one country that stood out. That was South Korea. The changes they made are still having a significant impact worldwide. What exactly did Korea do? Before I get into that, could you just hit the button? It takes just a second. It helps with making this video. All right, let's get started. Hi, I'm Michael Stone. I'm from the UK and have been working in international development across Africa for over 20 years. I was pretty cynical before I started this work. While working as a UNDP advisor in Sudan, I've traveled all over Africa to Chad, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and many other places. However, I've seen far more failed projects than successful ones. A few years ago, I got an urgent request from the Rwandan government. They wanted me to oversee a reconstruction project in a village called Muzimba. At first, I wanted to say no. I didn't want to go through another failure, but their desperate plea convinced me to take it on. On the plane from London to Kigali, I felt conflicted. What if I failed again? What if I just ended up disappointing the locals once more? Those thoughts kept swirling in my head. When I landed at Kigali Airport, Rwanda was stunning. The landscape, known as the Land of 1,000 Hills, looked like a painting. The airport building was clean and modern.
My first impression wasn't bad at all. But once we left the airport and headed toward the village, the vibe completely changed. As we left the city and went deeper into the countryside, it felt like time had stopped. The asphalt road slowly turned into dirt, and the telephone poles, they disappeared. The driver spoke quietly. "You need to be careful from here on. There might still be mines left." The moment I heard that, a chill ran down my spine. Oh, right. This place was a war zone just a few decades ago. That thought hit me. Looking out the window, I saw no light in the people's eyes. Even the kids didn't smile. The adults sat around in a daze or stroll. It didn't feel like there was any life here. Finally, we arrived at Mushimba village. The moment I stepped out of the car, I was speechless. Signs of war were everywhere. Walls marked with bullet holes, buildings with roofs blown off, and above all, the hopeless expressions on the residents' faces overwhelmed me. The village chief showed me around. He limped on one leg, a wound from the war. "Mr. Stone, welcome here, but don't get your hopes up. Many foreigners have come and gone already." His voice was full of resignation. "Hope," he said. Words already felt like a luxury. Looking around the village, the situation was dire. Most of the houses were roughly built with mud and wood, and the roofs were covered with tin or tarps. Yungin was nowhere to be seen, and there was no sign of any plumbing. In front of one house, a woman stood carrying a child. The child looked malnourished, and the woman's face was gaunt. When I approached, she turned her head away, clearly not happy to see a foreigner. That evening, I met with the president of Rwanda. President Paul Kagame had sharp, intense eyes. He spoke quietly but with a heavy tone. "Mr. Stone, in 1994, we lost 1 million people in 100 days." Hearing that sent chills down my spine. The Rwandan genocide, the brutal ethnic cleansing between the Hutus and Tutsis, I never imagined that horrific history, which I'd only read about in textbooks, would still feel so raw. Back then, the international community turned its back entirely on us. The UN peacekeepers withdrew, and both the US and France abandoned us. We turned our backs. We were utterly alone. The president's voice wasn't angry, it was deeply wounded. That's why everything in this country has collapsed. The economy, society, and even people's spirits were all destroyed. What we're doing now is starting from scratch. In that moment, I realized just how challenging this project was. It wasn't just about helping a poor village, it was about rebuilding a completely broken community. The next day, I reached out to agencies worldwide for assistance. I contacted major aid organizations in the US, France, Germany, Japan, and others. But all we got was cold rejection. "Rwanda? It's too risky right now. Has anyone succeeded in that area? I'm not sure. We don't have the budget, so it's going to be tough for now." Some agencies even said, "Africa won't change just by throwing money at it. Maybe you should consider other regions." In some countries, officials arrived, took some photos, and left departing in flashy cars. They took pictures with the locals, handed out souvenirs, and then left right away. The residents had lost all trust in foreigners because such incidents continued to happen. One grandmother said to me, "You're just another person who comes, takes pictures, and leaves. We've seen way too many like you people who come pretending to bring hope but disappear after a few days." Those words stuck with me deeply. The idea that foreign aid was just a show was widespread. Upon closer examination of the situation in Muzinba village, it wasn't very promising. Out of about 500 people, fewer than 10 had regular jobs. The unemployment rate was over 70%. They had to walk 5 kilometers to find clean water, and even then, it wasn't always available. Most families struggled to eat even one meal a day. Kids walked around barefoot and were often infected with parasites, and they didn't get any basic education. There was a school in the village, but the roof had collapsed so that it couldn't be used. The adults had already given up on everything. I had pretty much given up. A man told me, "This place is cursed. Nothing ever changes. My father lived like this, we live like this, and our kids will live the same way." Another local said, "God has abandoned us. That's why all this is happening. We live like this until we die." Hearing these hopeless voices, I started to doubt myself too. Was there anything I could do here? Wasn't this project doomed to fail like the others? Late at night, I went back to my temporary lodging and sat at my desk. There were piles of reports on development projects from all over the world: slum upgrades in Brazil, rural rebuilding in India, community projects in the Philippines, and more. I flipped through them one by one, trying to find some answer, but it was all the same story. Money is poured in, facilities are built, and skills are taught. Then, once the aid ends, everything returns to its original state. That's when it happened. The materials. One sentence caught my eye among the terms. Is Korea called a land of despair? I didn't know much about Korea before, just that it was a small Asian country, famous for K-pop and dramas. But that title strangely pulled me in. Upon digging into the information, I found some surprising facts. In the 1950s, right after the war, Korea was a total wreck. The country was barely getting by, relying on international aid day by day. There's even a record saying their per capita income was lower than that of the poorest African countries. But what about Korea now? It's the world's 12th largest economy. It's top tier in semiconductors, cars, and shipbuilding, and culturally, it's influencing the entire globe. How did such a transformation happen? Reading further, I learned about the Saemal-Undong, also known as the New Village Movement. Starting in the 1970s, this movement wasn't about waiting for outside help, it was about villagers standing up and taking charge themselves. It was built on 3 principles: diligence, self-help, and cooperation. It was a way for the whole community to grow together. Different from any aid approach I'd seen before. It wasn't about throwing money at the problem, but about changing people and changing the villagers' way of thinking, building organizations, and fostering a culture of collaboration. And the results were incredible. They moved the whole village and eventually transformed the entire country. South Korea went from being a recipient of aid to a donor country. At that moment, something just clicked inside me. Could this approach also work in Rwanda? The state of Muzinba village reminded me so much of how Korean villages looked at the start of the Saemal-Undong movement. Of course, I had doubts. Maybe it was just a unique Korean situation? Perhaps this model was too Korean to apply in Africa with its different culture? But the more I read, the more convinced I became. It wasn't about culture or background, it was about a philosophy that changes people. It wasn't about waiting for outside help, but about standing up on your own. This was different. That night, for the first time, I felt something called hope. After countless failures and giving up so many times, a small spark lit up inside me. South Korea, a country that went through the same kind of despair as I did, but managed to overcome it. I wanted to know how they managed to accomplish it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I continued to research information about Korea. At first, it was just curiosity, but the more I read, the more amazed I became. Seeing Korea right after the Korean War in 1950 was truly shocking. Seoul was completely in ruins, and people lived in tents provided by the U.S. military. The per capita income was only $67, which is worse than Rwanda today. However, what struck me the most were the expressions on the faces of the Korean people at that time. Looking at the photos, their eyes held the same hopelessness as the villagers in Muzinba, just barely getting through each day without hope. So how did a country like that transform into what it is now? I wanted to learn more. I started reading about the Saemal-Undong movement. In 1970, President Park Chung-hee. The movement they started was unique. Instead of giving money, they only provided cement and steel, and the rest was up to the villagers to handle themselves. At first, I wondered what this was all about. It seemed way too simple. However, once I understood the philosophy behind it, the story took on an entirely different meaning. The key words were self-help, self-reliance, and cooperation. It means working hard, helping yourself, and working together. It sounds easy, but making it happen must have been a different challenge. From what I read, many villages in Korea initially failed. People lost interest or gave up halfway through. But the changes in the villages that succeeded were notable. One village tripled their income in just a year. Another started seeing young people stop leaving for the city and even come back. How was this possible? The secret was leadership. They had what they called new village leaders. These were the most passionate and trusted folks in the village. They led by example. They led other residents by setting an example. And most importantly, the answers didn't come from outside. The villagers themselves identified the problems and devised solutions. The government has provided tools and some materials. That moved me. It was the complete opposite of the aid projects I'd seen before. Typically, outsiders devise the plans, and the villagers follow along. But in the Samal movement, the villagers were the leading players. Comparing it to Muzinba village, there were many similarities. Both were poor, hopeless, and lacked the will to change. But Korean villages managed to break free from that situation. I began to wonder if the same could happen here. Of course, there are cultural differences, but people's hearts are pretty much the same everywhere. Suppose you give them hope and show them how they can take action. The next morning, I went to meet the president in Kagam early. The president's office was simple but tastefully decorated. On the wall was Rwanda. There were photos showing history hanging on the wall. Mr. President, I studied about Korea last night. The president listened to me while drinking coffee. At first, he didn't seem very interested. Korea? What's so special about it? Korea went through the same struggles as we did. After the war, it was entirely in ruins. But look at it now. The president's expression changed a bit. He seemed to have heard about Korea's economic development before. There was something called the Samal movement. It began at the village level and ultimately transformed the entire country. I spread out the materials I had prepared. They were photos showing how Korean villages change. The president looked at them with interest. This is amazing. How was such a change possible? I didn't give him an answer from outside. The villagers were made to solve their problems. The government only gave minimal support. The president was silent for a moment, deep in thought. I could see something shifting in his eyes. This is the complete opposite of what we've been doing so far. That's right. This is it. It's not about giving handouts, but helping them stand on their own. The president took a closer look at the materials, especially showing interest in the Samal leaders. How were these leaders chosen? The villagers picked themselves people who were the most passionate and trustworthy, and they received systematic training. What kind of training? Leadership, farming techniques, how to manage the community, that sort of stuff. But the most important thing was changing their mindset. The president nodded, clearly starting to get interested. But Korea and Rwanda have different cultures. Will this work here? People's hearts are pretty much the same everywhere. If you suppose we have the right tools and show them how, they'll move. Besides, what else do we have to lose? The president gave a bitter smile. It was true. Every method tried so far had failed, so there was no reason not to try something new. All right then, we've tried everything else, so let's give this a shot. How do we get started? I'll reach out to Korea first. We'll need help from experts who have experience like this. That afternoon, I started reaching out to Korean organizations. I contacted several organizations, including KOICA and the Samal Undong Central Association. Surprisingly, their responses were super quick. Usually, it takes weeks to hear back from agencies in other countries, but Korea got back to me within a day. A KOICA representative even called me directly. Mr. Stone, you said you want to try the Samal Undong model in Rwanda, right? Yes, that's right. That's an interesting proposal. We've been thinking about projects like this in Africa, too. It was unexpected. This kind of proactive response was the first I'd seen. You're not just looking for material support, are you? No, we want to make real change. Then let's do this right. We can send over a team of experts. The Samal Undong Central Association had a similar reaction actually. They were even more eager. Spreading the Samal Undong movement in Africa has also been a dream of theirs. They were more than willing to help. Honestly, I was surprised. They were way more passionate than any other organization I'd met before. It didn't feel like they were offering money and calling it a day. They genuinely wanted to work together. When can we do the on-site survey? I'm available even next week. This kind of speed was unheard of. Usually, these things take months. That night, for the first time, I felt certain. This time, it felt different. I could feel the passion and sincerity of the Korean people. When I returned to Muzinba village, I informed the village chief. Experts from Korea will be coming soon. Foreigners again? The chief was still skeptical. Understandably so. But this time it's different. These people want to work with you. What's so different about that? Didn't everyone say that? I held the chief's hand and said, trust me. This time, it'll be different. Honestly, I wasn't 100% sure myself. But something just felt different. The way the Koreans approached things was entirely unlike anything that had come before. A few days later, I got a message that the Korean team was arriving. I got it. It was a team of 5 people: a Saemol Undong expert, an agricultural technician, a community development specialist, and 2 others. I waited for them with a mix of hope and anxiety. Would this be different this time? Could they turn the hopelessness of Musinba village into hope? I was curious about what kind of changes the people from Korea would bring. Finally, 2 weeks later, the day the Korean team arrived came. When I went to Kigali airport to pick them up, I felt half excited, half worried. I was anxious, wondering if I'd be disappointed again this time. I waited at the airport exit, and the Korean team came out. They were different right from the start. Instead of flashy cars or lots of luggage, they only had a few simple bags. The team leader, Mr. Kim Cheolsu, appeared to be in his mid-50s and was an expert in Saemol Undong. Then there was agricultural technician Park Young-soo, community development expert Lee Mi, and educator Choi Jung-min. 4 in total. Nice to meet you, Mr. Stone. It's an honor to be here in Rwanda, said team leader Kim. His greeting felt sincere. They didn't sound like they were saying what they thought we wanted to hear. They seemed like people who genuinely wanted to get things done. We didn't bring anything flashy. Instead, we brought experience and sincerity. The moment I heard that, I felt something was different. Typically, foreign experts arrive equipped with high-tech gear or a large quantity of materials. But these folks were straightforward. On the way to Musinba village, I gave a detailed rundown of the situation there. The residents are very skeptical of outsiders. They've been disappointed way too many times. Understandable. We have to rebuild that trust. Team leader Kim's response surprised me. Usually, people get impatient and try to rush results. But he asked, "How do you plan to approach this? Let me hear what the residents have to say first." That answer caught me off guard, too. Usually, people would start by explaining their plans. When we arrived at the village, the reaction from the residents was precisely what I expected. Most were indifferent or gave us cold looks. Some even went inside their homes right away. The village chief greeted the Korean team, but his expression was still gloomy. Looks like more foreigners have arrived. That's the vibe we got. But the Korean team didn't freak out at all. Surprisingly, team leader Kim walked over to a big tree right in the middle of the village and just sat down on the ground without saying a word. The rest of the team followed suit. They didn't pull out fancy gear or start taking pictures. They just quietly sat there, looking out over the village. Initially, the locals were quite confused. This was different from any foreigners they'd seen before. Usually, visitors would jump straight into meetings or tour the facilities. After about an hour, some curious kids started to come over one by one. I guess they found the Koreans interesting. However, the team didn't pay special attention to the kids. They just let things be as they naturally were. When it got to lunchtime, team leader Kim approached the village chief. "Where can we eat lunch?" he asked. "There aren't any restaurants here," the chief said. "Everyone just eats at home." "All right, then we'll do the same as the locals." Kim pulled out a simple packed lunch and started eating under the tree. The rest of the team followed suit. It was the same. We didn't eat at fancy hotels or ask for any special treatment. The locals' expressions began to change slightly when they saw this. I guess they thought we were different from the usual foreigners. In the afternoon, team leader Kim spoke to the village chief. "Can we have a village meeting? I want to talk with the residents." "A meeting? What for?" "Not to tell you what we're going to do, but to hear what you want." The chief looked surprised. All the foreigners who'd come before had just announced their plans. That evening, the village meeting was held. At first, only a few showed up, but gradually more people gathered, probably out of curiosity. Team leader Kim stood up and said, "Hello, we're from Korea. We came because we want to work together with you." The residents listened through an interpreter but didn't react. They probably thought it was just the usual talk. "We're not here to give you something. We want to build something together." That got the residents a bit more interested. It started to become clear. Our country used to be just like you all. After the war, everything was in ruins. However, the villagers worked together and made changes. One resident raised their hand. "So, what exactly do you want to do?" "First, I want to hear your stories. What's the biggest problem in this village, and how do you think it should be fixed?" That was the first time they'd been asked that. Usually, outsiders would come in, diagnose the problems, and offer solutions. An older woman spoke up carefully. "We don't have enough water. We have to go far to get some." Team leader Kim said, "What other problems are there?" "There are no jobs. All the young people are leaving for the city. Even when we farm, the profits are small. The kids have nowhere to learn." The villagers started sharing their problems one by one. Team leader Kim listened carefully to everything. He didn't interrupt or try to push ideas. After the meeting, an older man came over and asked, "Are you different from other foreigners?" Team leader Kim lifted a hoe and replied, Actions speak louder than words. Let me show you. From the next day, the Korean team kicked off their activities in full swing. The very first thing they did was elect a village leader. All change starts with leadership. We need to choose someone passionate and trustworthy among you. At first, the villagers were a bit confused. Picking a leader like that was unfamiliar to them. But after hearing team leader Kim's explanation, they started to take it seriously. After several days of discussion, a young farmer named Batista was chosen. In his early 30s, he was the hardest working and trusted person in the village. Congratulations! From now on, you're the new village leader. Village leader? You're the one who will lead the change here. We're just here to support you. The next step was setting up an education center. They converted an empty building on one side of the village into a temporary education center. It was equipped with simple tools and materials that the Korean team had brought with them. The lessons covered a wide range of topics including farming techniques, hygiene education, community management, and more. But the important thing was changing our mindset. Team leader Kim told the residents, "You can do this. You don't have to wait around for someone else to come and help." One resident asked, "Can we do it?" Korean villages initially had the same question. But once they got started, they realized they could. Mr. Park Young-soo began agricultural training, teaching everyone how to cultivate corn and potatoes while working together to clear up abandoned land. The key wasn't just the skills, it was doing it together. Things that are impossible alone become possible when many people join in. Initially, only a few people participated, but gradually, more individuals became involved, especially the younger ones. Ms. Choi Young-min began basic education, teaching children reading, writing, and arithmetic. Studying is fun, a kid said with a cheeky smile. Seeing this, the parents were happy too. After a week, small changes began to appear. The most noticeable was the vibe in the village, people gathering and chatting more. There were more of them. Jean-Baptiste told me, "Mr. Stone, it's amazing. Koreans don't just give us something, they seem to pull out what's already inside us." That was such a spot-on way to put it. The Korean team focused less on material support and more on raising awareness and developing the abilities of the villagers. One afternoon, voluntary cleaning started in the village. No one told them to do it, but the villagers just began picking up trash and tidying the streets on their own. Team leader Kim said to me, "Look, this is the same old spirit. It's not about being told to do it, but doing it by yourself." I was truly moved. Just weeks before, these people were in despair. Yet here they were, transformed in this way. The kids started changing, too. They used to roam around barefoot, crying, but now they were beginning to smile. In a makeshift classroom, the kids learning there had a spark in their eyes. One mother told me, "Our child is speaking about dreams for the first time. He says he wants to be a teacher." At that moment, I felt something. I realized something special was happening. Changes were already starting to appear even in the once barren fields. Just 2 weeks after planting, the first sprouts began to show. It was a small change, but it gave the villagers immense hope. "You're doing well," Jean-Baptiste said, moved. "I can't believe things are growing this well on our land, too." Park Young-soo smiled and replied, "Believe me, this is just the beginning." For the first time, the whole village gathered for a meeting. There was a serious discussion about who would be the leader. This was something that had never happened before. "Amazingly, we're choosing this ourselves," one villager said. "It's not someone coming to decide for us, it's us making the choice." That night, I wrote in my journal, "I've seen countless projects, but this was the first time I've seen a community being rebuilt from the ground up." This wasn't just aid, it was about reviving the village. It was true. The Korean team didn't just try to fix the obvious problems, they touched people's hearts as well. We were starting to change the way we thought. But I didn't realize yet that with change always comes resistance and that even bigger challenges were waiting ahead. About a month after the Korean team began their work, unexpected problems started popping up one by one. Some of the villagers who had joined out of curiosity and hope began to look at us with suspicion. It all started with a comment from Emmanuel, one of the village elders. He was in his late 70s, the oldest resident in the village, and many people respected his words. "Aren't these foreigners just here to use us?" Emmanuel said in front of the others. "Look at all the foreigners who've come before. At first, they say all the right things, but in the end, they take pictures and disappear, don't they?" A few villagers nodded along with him. The wounds from the past were still fresh. The Koreans must be the same, right? Just here for a quick show and then gone. As this doubt started to spread, the mood in the village subtly changed. Those participating in the Korean team's activities, the number of people started to decrease slowly. The bigger problem was the pushback from the local officials. Jean-Claude, the regional officer from Kigali, visited the village and didn't like what the Korean team was doing. He asked me, This village is supposed to be managed by our government, so why are foreigners doing whatever they want? I calmly replied that all the procedures had received government approval, but he continued to complain. He said, even so, ignoring our way and just following the foreign way is a problem. His complaints weren't just about procedures. He was concerned that the existing power structure would be disrupted. It seemed that he felt the Korean team, which was teaching the villagers leadership skills and helping them become self-reliant, was challenging his authority. At a village meeting, Jean-Claude openly said, "Why do we have to follow foreign methods? We have our way. It's not right for foreigners to come and try to teach us." These words, it had a significant impact on the locals. Especially the older folks, who were used to the old ways, started nodding along. To make things worse, I began getting criticism from my colleagues. Pierre, a French expert working on another project in Tagali, came to see me. "Michael, this approach is way too idealistic," he said with a worried look. "The Korean model might work in Korea, but this is Africa. The culture and circumstances are different." However, the response has been positive so far. That's how it always is at first. But over time, things go back to the way they were, Pierre said, his words dripping with skepticism born from years of experience. "This is Africa. It's been like this, and it'll continue like this. No matter what outsiders try, the core won't change." Hansu, a colleague from Germany, had a similar take. "This community-centered approach isn't sustainable. Be realistic." Hearing all this, I started to doubt myself. Was this the right way? Maybe I was rushing into this too quickly. Could it be that they still hold on to hope? The bigger problem was the conflict brewing among the villagers. A heated argument broke out during the village meeting. "Do we have to go this far?" France, the village vice chair, vented her frustration. "We've been living like this all along, so why change now?" Jean-Baptiste replied, "It's for a better life. If we want a brighter future for our kids, we have to change." "What difference will changing make? In the end, we're just poor Africans," France said, and some villagers nodded in agreement. "Yeah, no matter what we do, nothing's gonna change much." But others pushed back. "If we say that, nothing will ever change," Marie-Angelique said. "If we don't try, no one else will help us." This deepened the divide between the hopeful and the resigned. The meeting grew increasingly intense, eventually devolving into shouting matches. "Don't you understand the reality? No, you're just giving up way too easily." The Korean team, watching this conflict unfold, I found myself in a tough spot. If I stepped in, I thought it might just make things worse, but doing nothing meant the situation continued to deteriorate. Team leader Kim Cheol-soo quietly said to me, "This was expected. Conflicts like this always happen during times of change." But I couldn't help worrying, thinking, what if everything just falls apart? It was the same back in Korea. In the early days of the Saemal movement, every village went through conflicts like these. Despite his words, I felt uneasy. Things were getting worse. A few days later, something profound happened. Work stopped in the field we were supposed to open together. It was the result of the conflict exploding. That morning, a central argument broke out among the villagers who had gone to the field. "Why do only we have to do this hard work?" Francois shouted angrily. "Everyone else is relaxing at home, but we're the ones being treated like fools." "Then don't do it," Jean-Baptiste shot back. "But don't expect to share in the rewards later if you don't help now." In the end, a few people took up the hose. He threw it down and went straight home. The rest of us didn't know what to do and eventually had to call off the work. That afternoon, no one showed up in the field. Staring at the empty field, I felt utterly hopeless. Was this the end? I wondered, was all our hard work going to be for nothing? The Korean team looked serious, too. But we didn't give up. Team leader Kim called an emergency meeting. "This is the most crucial moment," he said firmly. "It's times like these that we need to try even harder. But what can we do if the locals have turned their backs on us?" Lee Mi-young asked, worried. "This kind of thing happened a lot in Korea, too. There were more villages where the Saemal movement failed than succeeded," she added. "So, how did you overcome it?" Someone asked. "We didn't give up. We kept communicating with the villagers until the end," Park Young-soo replied. Team leader Kim made up his mind. "Let's do the same. It's too early to give up." From that night on, the Korean team started visiting the villagers individually. We went door to door, having honest conversations. Team leader Kim visited Emmanuel. "Sir, I know you don't trust us. That's understandable. We've shown up here more times than you can count. I get how you feel. But we're different. What makes you say that? We're not here to use you, we genuinely want to work together." Emmanuel's expression softened a bit at Kim's sincere words. Our country faced tough times like this, too, back in the day. But the community came together and made a change. "Really? Yes. That's why we want to join forces with you." Other team members also had in-depth conversations with the residents they're responsible for. They listened to complaints and doubts firsthand and addressed them individually. Mr. Park Young-soo met with residents interested in farming. Sir, can we increase crop yields on our land? It's possible, but it's tough to do alone. We have to work together. But people keep fighting. That's exactly why we need to talk more to understand each other better. We have to put in the effort. Lee Mi Young met with the women and talked with them. What can people like us do? Marie Angelique sighed and said, women are the key to change. When you, who take care of the home and raise the kids, start to change, everything changes. Is that true? Even in Korea, the success of the Saemal Undong was thanks to the women. It wouldn't have been possible with just the men. After several days of these one-on-one talks, the atmosphere began to shift gradually. The locals started to open up, sensing the sincerity of the Korean team. Jean-Baptiste told me, Mr. Stone, the Korean teachers seem different. In what way? Other foreigners have kept their distance from us, but these people genuinely want to be with us. You can tell? Yeah, just last night, they stayed at my house late into the night talking. We've never had anyone like that before. Finally, the village meeting was held again. This time, the vibe was completely different. Team leader Kim spoke first. Over the past few days, we've spent a lot of time with you all. We talked. I understand the distrust and concerns you have about us. The residents listened quietly. We don't want to force anything on you, but we also don't want to give up. Emmanuel raised his hand. So, are you saying you'll leave if we don't want you here? Then yes, we will go. But please, give us one more chance before that. The team leader Kim's candid words took aback the residents. As these outside experts push their plans through, we won't try too hard. We'll go at your pace, in the way you want, together. Jean-Baptiste stood up. I want to keep going. This is the most hopeful thing we've done so far. Marie Angelique nodded too. Same here. For the first time, I feel like something could change. One by one, voices of agreement began to emerge. Of course, some people were still skeptical, but at least now the door to dialogue was open. Emmanuel said at the end, all right, let's give it one more shot. But this time, show them you're different. Team leader Kim bowed deeply. Thank you. I won't let you down. After the meeting, I felt a massive sense of relief. It seemed like we had gotten through the crisis. But then Kim told me, Stern, this is just the beginning. It's easy to say, but much harder to prove it with your actions. And he was right. After all the conflict and doubt, we'd finally reached the stage where real change had to happen. That night, I wrote in my journal today I realized just how hard change is. Changing people's hearts is more challenging than changing technology or money. But seeing the Korean team's sincerity and persistence gave me hope. After passing through the shadows of conflict and doubt, a new challenge has begun. Will they be able to deliver the change they promised? After going through the tough times of conflict and doubt, the village of Mushinba slowly began to move again. But this time, it was different. Genuine trust was starting to grow among the villagers. There had been conflicts before. People started gathering in the field again. Initially, only a few people showed up, but the numbers gradually increased. What stood out the most was the vibe. It was different this time. Nobody was forcing themselves. Everyone genuinely wanted to be there. Let's work together this time, Jean-Baptiste said. We might have different opinions, but let's talk things through and figure it out. They even began cautiously involving the French. I want to give it another shot, too, he added. Everyone was surprised he had been the biggest skeptic. Mr. Park Young-soo restarted the agricultural training sessions, and more people showed interest this time. Shall we check on the corn we planted last time? Park led them to the field. Despite being somewhat neglected due to past conflicts, the corn stood firm. Wow, it's grown so much. One resident exclaimed. We didn't even manage it properly, and it's doing this well. Plants are honest, Park said. If you put in care and effort, they'll repay you. The villagers nodded in agreement. 1 month later, something amazing happened. The first harvest season arrived. Everyone headed out to the fields, filled with both hope and nerves. The crops grew well. Baptista marveled as he lifted the corn. It was significantly larger and more comprehensive than what we used to produce. Is this really what we grew? An old woman said, gently stroking the corn. Our land is still alive. Hearing that, others began to tear up one by one. To think that after all these decades of thinking the land was barren, we could harvest something this bountiful. It felt like a dream. The harvest results far exceeded expectations. The yield was more than double compared to the same time last year. I can't believe it. Did we do this? Yes, you all did it yourselves. Team leader Kim Chol-soo replied with a smile. But more than anything, the important thing is that we did it together. Seeing this success, other villagers started joining in enthusiastically. Even those who were hesitant at first began stepping up, saying, "I want to try too. This time, it really might be different. I don't know." Even Emmanuel started changing his mind. "I've never seen math like this in my life." The whole village began to buzz with a bit of energy. People began gathering on their own to hold meetings and collaborate. Every evening, a community meeting naturally took place. Initially, the Korean team assisted, but now Jean-Baptiste could handle it all by himself. "What should we talk about today? The road problem is urgent. It's hard to transport crops when it rains. We also need to dig a new well because there's a shortage of water, and it would be great if the kids' education were more organized." The villagers started actively sharing their opinions. Before, they just accepted things wouldn't change, but now the vibe was more like, "Let's try this, let's try that." Young people even took it upon themselves to start fixing the village entrance road. No one told them to do it. "Why are you suddenly fixing the road?" I asked. One young guy smiled and said, "It's just uncomfortable to walk every day. If we fix it, wouldn't that be better?" Did someone tell us to do it? No one did. We just wanted to. That's how it was. Volunteering just kept happening. People were cleaning up trash, scrubbing the community well, tidying up the village square, all of it done voluntarily. Team leader Kim said to me, "Look, Mr. Stone, this is the same old spirit. It's not because someone told us to do it, but because we want to." The changes in the women were terrific, too. The women's group led by Maria became even more active. "We can do something too," they said. The women started a community garden and began growing vegetables. Then they shared the food they made from those veggies with the villagers. "I've never tasted tomatoes like this before. They're delicious," someone said. Seeing the kids happily eating fresh vegetables made the women feel proud. "We made this," Maria said proudly. "We're helping the village." The education program initiated by Ms. Lee Young also gained momentum. Not just kids, but adults started joining too. "I want to learn how to read," said Han, a father. "I don't want to be embarrassed in front of my kids. I need to study." During the community education time, parents and kids sat together to study. It was such a heartwarming scene. "Dad, this is how you write the letter." "Oh, our daughter's the teacher now." Hearing conversations like that moved me. One day, something extraordinary happened. It was a resident's birthday, and Lee Young had prepared a surprise gift. "I heard today is Johan's birthday." Johan was a man in his 40s, one of the hardest working people in the village, but he had never had a proper birthday celebration in his life. When Kim Mi Young handed him a small cake and a gift, tears welled up in Johan's eyes. "Teacher, how did you do this? It's only natural. It's someone precious's birthday." Johan couldn't speak for a long time, then suddenly burst into tears. "I've never received a gift like this before. I didn't know I was this important to anyone." At that moment, everyone in the village cried too. It wasn't just a simple birthday gift, it was a recognition of a person's work. It was quite a day. "We should celebrate each other's birthdays too," said Jean-Baptiste. "I never really thought about that before." These small acts of kindness helped build a strong trust between the villagers and the Korean team. It honestly felt like one big family now. The health education started by Choi Young-min was a huge hit. Washing your hands properly can prevent many illnesses. Initially, many people didn't consider hand washing to be particularly important. But once they tried it, the results were precise. The kids got sick less often. One mother said, "Amazed, it's such a simple thing, but I never knew." These small changes added up, and the entire village began to improve its health. You could even see it in the kids' faces. They looked brighter and more energetic. The village meetings also got more organized. They set the agenda, discussed issues, and made decisions together. Today, there are 3 main topics. Jean-Baptiste led the meeting. First, digging a new well. Second, widening the village entrance road. Third, building a shared storage shed. Each resident, people shared their opinions. Some were in favor of it, while others were against it, but everyone respected each other and had a good discussion. The well is the most urgent issue. Currently, the well is too far away, making it difficult to fetch water. That's true, especially women and kids are having a tough time. But the road is essential too. When it rains, it's hard to sell crops. There were lots of different opinions, but in the end, we decided to dig the well first. It was a decision made through a democratic process. So, let's start with digging the well. Who can participate? Almost all the men raised their hands. It was voluntary. From the next day, the well digging began. The Korean team also joined in. Seeing team leader Kim personally pick up a shovel and start digging moved the villagers. Is the team leader working with us as well? Of course. We're doing this together. The villagers applauded team leader Kim's words. After a week, the new well was finished. Everyone cheered when they saw clean water gushing out. We did it. We made this happen with our own hands. The residents took pride in what they'd accomplished. It wasn't something done for them by outsiders, it was all their hard work. One afternoon, I witnessed a genuinely touching moment. An older woman was drawing water from the new well, tears streaming down her face. "Grandma, why are you crying?" a child asked. "I'm just so happy. After living 80 years, this is the first time I've drawn such clean water this close to home." Hearing that, I couldn't hold back my tears. The cooperative also started running in full swing. The young people took the lead in forming an agricultural co-op where they bought farming tools together and sold their crops as a group, things they couldn't do alone, they could do now. The young co-op leader said proudly, "Next, we're thinking about buying a tractor together." The village even held a small festival, a celebration for the first harvest and the completion of the well. It was an event planned and organized entirely by the residents themselves. Today marked a new beginning for our village. It was the day of the event. Jean-Baptiste was leading the ceremony, speaking loudly. The villagers applauded. Just a few months ago, we were all in despair. But now, hope has come. The village children sang a song bright and lively, unlike anything we'd heard before. Even the adults started joining in. After the festival, a surprise event was held for the Korean team. The villagers had secretly prepared it. "Thank you, teachers." On a big sheet of paper were many messages of gratitude, written in Korean, English, and the local language. Team leader Kim's eyes welled up with tears. "Thank you so much. We've received more than we've given." That night, I wrote in my journal for the first time in a while. Today, I witnessed a true miracle. It wasn't a change brought in from outside, it was a change blooming from within the people's hearts. This wasn't just a simple development project. It was the rebirth of a community. What they found wasn't just better farming techniques. It was confidence. It was the belief that we could do it too. Now I understand why the Korean team's approach was so special. They didn't just give us fish, they taught us how to catch fish. More precisely, they gave us the confidence that we could see fish ourselves. As these little miracles started adding up one by one, Musinpa village was slowly turning into a completely new place. But would this change continue to go smoothly? A bigger challenge was waiting. As word about the small miracles in Musinpa village spread, unexpected things began to happen. First, people from nearby villages began to arrive. At first, it was just a few, but gradually more and more showed up. Did all this happen in just a few months? The head of a neighboring village asked with a look of disbelief. "Yes, we're amazed too," replied Giambattista proudly. "What's the secret? We worked together, and we never gave up." As these rumors spread, local media also started paying attention and visiting Rwanda. A reporter came on the show to cover the story. How was such a change possible? The reporter asked team leader Kim Chol-soo. "We didn't do anything special. These people did it themselves." It just goes to show that Korea's Saemal Undong movement works even in Africa. The key wasn't technology or money, but trusting the people, he said. After the broadcast aired, something amazing happened. Study groups from all over began arriving. Every day, a new team would visit the village, tour around, and then leave. At first, the villagers were happy. They felt proud that their efforts were being recognized. "Our village has become famous. People come from all over to see us," they said. However, problems began to surface gradually. With so many visitors, daily life in the village started to get disrupted. People were coming every day, taking pictures, and asking questions, making it hard to focus on farming. One farmer voiced his frustration. "Even the kids can't concentrate in class because people keep coming to gawk." The more serious issue was the attitude of some of these visitors. They weren't sincere. Some people came to learn, but others were just there to gawk. "It felt like they were watching us like we were animals in a zoo," said Marie-Angelique, upset. Some just took pictures and left. The biggest issue was the involvement of government officials. Once Musinpa village became famous, they suddenly showed interest. One day, a group of local government officials arrived. Even the Deputy Minister of Agriculture from Rwanda came. "We're going to designate this village as a government model village," the Deputy Minister announced officially. "From now on, the government will manage things directly and provide more support." At first, it sounded like good news, but in reality, it wasn't. Once the government began to intervene, the village's independence was threatened. "From now on, all plans need government approval," said one of the officials sent over. "We'll also be managing the cultural troop registrations." "Why are you suddenly trying to control things we've always handled ourselves?" Jean-Baptiste asked, confused. "Because you have to follow government policies. Doing things privately could cause problems," they replied. The Korean team found themselves in a tough spot. Suddenly, they had to get government approval for every single activity. With that kind of red tape, we couldn't do what we set out to do. Team leader Kim told me, Worried, the whole point of the Same All movement is community self-governance. But if the government controls everything, it loses its meaning. Soon, other international organizations began to show interest. A delegation from the European Union visited and proposed a substantial support plan. "We'll provide $10,000 to this village," their representative said. "We'll build modern facilities and bring the latest farming equipment." But Kim politely declined. "We've been doing well so far, so why do we suddenly need such huge support?" "For faster development," they replied. "We can't miss this opportunity." Still, the villagers were confused. Suddenly, various restrictions from different agencies began to pile up. "We don't know what's right anymore," they said. Jean-Baptiste was deep in thought. It was simple until now, but it's gotten complicated all of a sudden. The biggest challenge came from within the village itself. Suddenly, the sudden flood of attention and promises of support started causing fights among the villagers. "We've gotten so famous now, shouldn't we be asking for more?" Francois said. He used to be against it, but now he was the one pushing for more. "It feels like Koreans aren't giving us enough. Other countries are giving way more." "That's not the point," Jean-Baptiste argued. "It's more important that they help us stand on our own." "Don't say that. If we had more money, we could develop faster." The tension kept growing. Outside attention was tearing the village apart. Then one day, something profound happened. There was a massive argument at the village meeting. "We need to get support," Francois insisted. "With $1 million, our village could be completely transformed. But then we won't be the ones in charge," Jean-Baptiste countered. "We've been doing this on our own until now, why suddenly rely on others?" It's because there's no greed. Consider the future of our children." The meeting grew increasingly heated, and it almost turned into a physical altercation. Team leader Kim stepped in and calmed things down, but the mood in the village was already sour. "I knew this would happen." Team leader Kim sighed and said to me, "This always happens when you succeed. Too much outside attention does more harm than good. What should we do? We need to start from scratch. We need to rediscover that original mindset." That night, the team held an emergency meeting. "This is the most dangerous moment," team leader Kim said seriously. "We almost fell into the trap of success. How do we fix this? We need to have honest talks with the villagers. We have to help them remember why we started." The next day, team leader Kim called a special village meeting. Everyone showed up. "Everyone, let's pause for a moment and think," team leader Kim said calmly. "Remember when we first started a few months ago? What was our goal back then?" The villagers went quiet. It wasn't about making a lot of money. Was fame the goal? Was becoming famous the goal? Jean-Baptiste raised his hand. "No, it wasn't. Our goal was to stand on our own 2 feet." "That's right. Becoming independent was the goal." Team leader Kim nodded. "But what about now? Aren't we trying to rely on outside help again?" Emmanuel stood up. "Team leader, you're right. We almost lost sight of our original purpose." "Same here." He bowed his head to France as well. "We got greedy." "I'm sorry." Team leader Kim smiled and said, "It's okay. It's natural to get greedy sometimes. However, the most important thing is not to lose sight of what truly matters." "So, what should we do?" "Keep going our way, slowly, but surely." After the village meeting, the residents unanimously decided, from now on, large-scale aid will be politely declined, and any excessive government interference will be closely monitored and kept in check. "We're going to do things our way," Jean-Baptiste said confidently. "Even if it takes time, we'll develop in a way where we're in control." They also decided to limit the orchestra bookings to once a week. "We decided only to accept teams that genuinely want to learn. We're not here to be a spectacle." Marie-Angelique said that only those truly willing to join us are welcome. After making this decision, the village atmosphere started to settle down again. They chose to follow their path, undistracted by flashy external restrictions. Team leader Kim told me, "Real success is about resisting these temptations." It was a tough test. Yeah, but now, they've matured. They've learned what truly matters. A few days later, something happened. Another village delegation that genuinely wanted to learn arrived, and the residents of Muzimpa village began to guide and teach them personally. "The important thing isn't a lot of money," Jean-Baptiste told the other village chief. "It's the willingness to work together." "How do we get started?" "First, have lots of conversations with the residents. Listen to what they want. Now, Muzimpa village isn't just a place that receives help, it's a place that gives help to others. Now it's time to share what we've received with others," Marie-Angelique said proudly. "That night, I wrote in my journal today, I truly learned what success means. It's not about getting recognition from others or having lots of support. Real success is resisting those temptations and staying true to your path." The people of Muzimpa village have finally grown up. They can now decide for themselves what matters and what to protect. The crisis strengthened the town. Now, regardless of the challenges that come their way, the community will remain unshaken. A few months after Muzinba overcame outside temptations, the village's spirit spread over Africa. Ethiopia was the first to respond. The Ethiopian Minister of Agriculture personally visited Muzinba village. "We want to apply these changes in our country," the minister told team leader Kim Chiolsu. "We'd like to sign a same-all movement agreement with Korea officially." Then, next was Senegal. Similar requests came from Uganda and Tanzania. They didn't just want to visit, they tried to start the same-all undam movement in their own countries. "We want to be the Korea of Africa," said the Senegalese ambassador. "We want to create the kind of change we saw in Muzinba village across our entire country." The most surprising thing was Poka's official statement as Rwanda president. At an international press conference, the president made a truly shocking statement. "I take former President Park Chung-hee as my role model." This statement caused a considerable stir worldwide. It was the first time an African leader had openly acknowledged a Korean leader as his role model. "Korea started from a situation like ours and made a miracle," the president continued. "We will learn the same-all spirit and change Rwanda." When the people of Muzinba village heard this, they were extremely proud. "Our village has become a model for the whole country," Jean-Baptiste said, moved to tears. "The president recognizes us." A few days later, the president himself. "I visited Muzinba village. It was of the most tremendous significance in the village's history. Everyone came out to welcome the president." The president told the residents, "What you've achieved isn't just simple village development. You've shown the future of our entire country. Thank you so much, Mr. President," Emmanuel said, tears in his eyes. "I never thought I'd experience and Honu honor this in my lifetime." The president also gave special thanks to the Korean team. "Korea didn't just give us aid," the president said, shaking hands with team leader Kim. "They taught us how to walk together. That's true cooperation." Kim humbly replied, "We didn't do much. These people did it themselves. That's the special Korean way." After the president's visit, amazing things happened one after another. First, the Rwandan government officially announced a nationwide same-all undam project. Over the next 5 years, they plan to expand the movement to 300 villages. The president declared in H declaration his national address, stating that was inspired by the potential shown by Muzinba village. They plan to disseminate this information nationwide. KOICA and the Same-all Undang Central Association joined forces, promising to send numerous experts and establish programs. Even the folks in Muzinba village got involved. Jean-Baptiste became a trainer for new Same-all leaders, and Marie-Angelique took charge of the women's leadership training. "At first, I was skeptical too," Jean-Baptiste told the new leaders, "but once we got started, we realized we really could do it. You will too. The most important thing is to believe in the people," Marie-Angelique added. "We already have all the skills we need inside us." One by one, villages that had gone under began to see stars. It wasn't quite like Muzinba, but definite changes were happening. "Our village has changed too," reported a newly successful village chief. "Like Muzinba, we found hope." As these stories spread internationally, they sparked even bigger impacts. The UN Development Program officially recognized the K community for development. They recognized it as a model. The UNDP Secretary General announced that the model will be expanded to developing countries worldwide. The approach Korea showed will become a new development paradigm. I also took on a new role in this process. The UN appointed me as the overall head of the project to expand the K community. The Secretary General said to me, "Stone, you have to take charge of this. You're the best person for the job." It was a huge honor to work in development for over 20 years, but I'd never been part of such a meaningful project before. After starting this new role, I saw some amazing facts. In Bangladesh, flood-hit areas were completely rebuilt using the Same-all method. In Bauru, struggling villages doubled their income through cooperative efforts. We learned from Korea and Rwanda. The village chief in Peru told me, "Even in desperate times, we learned that if we stick together, we can create hope." In the Philippines, a coastal village damaged by a typhoon was rebuilt using the Same-all method. There were some real-life stories. They built a village that can now stand firm when a typhoon hits. The village chief proudly shared this. As more success stories like this accumulate, the world's attention is on Korea's complete transformation. Was once used primarily for pop and dramas, but now it's starting to be recognized as a leader in development cooperation. The Korean government actively responded to this shift, launching a massive initiative called the K Community Global Initiative. Over the next 10 years, they plan to spread a 3-village model to 1,000 villages across 100 countries. The Korean president delivered a speech at the UN General Assembly, stating that it is now ready to give back to the world what it once received. That speech moved people worldwide. The country that once received it is now helping others. Even in Muzinba village, Hearing this news made everyone reel. What we started is spreading worldwide. Jean-Baptiste was so moved. He said, "This feels like a dream," but they didn't let success get to their heads. They remembered the hardships they faced back in the office. I realized what truly matters through this. We need to focus on doing our part right. Emmanuel said something wise: it doesn't matter whether others notice or not. The village kept steadily improving. New cooperatives emerged, with young people starting businesses right here, rather than heading to the city. There was excellent progress. A proper school was built in the fall, and a computer training center was open. Our kids are now confidently talking about their dreams. One mother happily said, "I want to be a doctor. I want to be a teacher. I want to be an engineer." These were dreams we couldn't even imagine before. Seeing these changes, team leader Kim Chialsu felt a sense of relief. He said, "I never thought the seeds we planted would grow into such a big tree. It's truly incredible." I replied, "One small village is starting to change the world." That day, the student assigned from Muzinba village was accepted into college the first time in the village's history. It happened like this. He got a scholarship and entered the University of Kigali. The young man's mother tearfully said, "Our son said he wants to study engineering and work for the village." One by one, these things accumulated. Muzinba village truly became a completely different place. There were visible changes, but more than anything, people's hearts changed. "We have confidence now," said Marie Angelique. "We've gained the belief that we can accomplish anything." They even started winning international awards. They received the Global Community Development Award from the UN and the Model Village Award from the African Union. But the residents said they gained something even more important than awards. "Awards are secondary," said Jean-Baptiste. "What readers are those that we've changed? We've come to believe in ourselves." A year later, a special event was held. The first African Semal Undong Conference took place in Muzinba village, bringing together village representatives practicing the Semal Undong movement across Africa. We all gathered. Just 2 years ago, this was unimaginable. Team leader Kim said, moved to tears. Now, these folks have become teachers for other villages. At the competition, the people from Muzinba village shared their experiences with others. "The most important thing is never to give up," Baptiste said during his speech. "Even when things get tough, if we stick together, we can overcome them. Then it's also crucial not to be swayed by outside temptations," added Marie Angelique. "True success is standing on your own 2 feet." On the last day of the competition, there was a truly genuine moment. Representatives from every village came together to adopt a declaration. "We will change Africa with the spirit of the new village movement. We will stand on our own, without relying on outside help. We will support each other and grow together." That night, I wrote a long journal entry. "Today, I witnessed a real absolute. A small village that was once in despair has now become a beacon of hope for the entire continent. The spirit passed on from a country called Korea has begun to transform all of Africa. This is more than just development. It's not just about the project's success, but a victory for believing in human potential. It proved that people can change and communities can be reborn." What started as a small protest in Muzinba village has now grown into a powerful movement sweeping across the globe. But this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. It's been 2 years since the miracle that began in Muzinba spread worldwide. In that time, things we never imagined have continued to happen. Korea's Semal spirit is bringing new hope to communities worldwide. The most remarkable aspect is how much it has grown. Initially, it was just Muzinba village. But now the Semal movement is taking place in 30 districts and hundreds of towns across Africa. In Asia, countries such as Bangladesh, Nepal, and the Philippines are witnessing similar projects succeed. In South America, countries like Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador are also achieving excellent outcomes. It's honestly unbelievable. Team leader Kim Chialsu told me this. He's now the head of Korea's global Semal policy and travels all over the world. It all started in Muzinba village. Who would have thought a little thing there would grow this big? Seriously, a tiny seed grew into a giant, vast tree, I answered back. Muzinba village kept increasing. They built a small factory and even guest houses for tourists. However, the most significant aspect was the shift in people's mindset. "We stopped just taking and started giving," Jean-Baptiste said proudly. He's now the president of the African New Village Movement and guides other villages in different countries. Every month, people from abroad come to learn from us. It feels amazing. Marie Angelique became a famous female leader internationally. The UN Women's Group even invited her to give talks. "I never imagined I'd be speaking in New York," she said with a smile. But the best part? Our village kids started dreaming big. And it was true, the changes in the kids from Muzinba were incredible. Now, many are going on to college. There are kids now, and some of them are even going abroad to study. "We have finally been assigned a doctor from our village," one proud mother said happily. My son graduated from medical school and plans to work at the village clinic. We also have an engineer now. Another father boasted, my daughter studied engineering and wants to build bridges for our village. Seeing these changes moved me. It made me realize just how powerful education is. People's views of Korea have undergone a significant shift on the international stage. Korea isn't just an economically developed country anymore, it's recognized as a true advanced nation that knows how to help others. Korea is a special place. The UN Secretary General said this openly. Korea never forgets the help it received and pays it forward to other countries. Even the World Bank has officially adopted the Korean model as a development framework. When they create policies to help developing countries, Korea's experience is now a key reference. The whole approach to aid has shifted. The World Bank president said, it's no longer just about money. It's not about giving, but about helping people stand on their own 2 feet. That's what genuine development cooperation is all about. I felt fulfilled working at the heart of this change. As the head of the new Global Self-Reliance Initiative at the UN, I was spreading the Korean model around the world. Recently, we launched a significant project. A Korean university created a global Saemol Academy, inviting young people from developing countries worldwide to learn the Saemol spirit. It was an educational institution that taught our experience in a structured way. The university president said, we believe it's our responsibility to share our know-how of overcoming poverty with the world. I also began giving regular lectures in this program, sharing stories about Musinba village with young students from around the world. You can do it too, I told them. The key is to believe in people and have the will to work together. The students' reactions after the lectures were truly moving. Professor, I also want to change my village. A student from Africa said with bright eyes, I want my town to find hope just like Musinba village did. Another student said, I'm from India, and my town needs this kind of change as well. Every time I see these young people, I feel hopeful about the future. I'm sure they'll go back to their countries and bring about new changes. And it's starting to happen. Students who have returned after receiving an education are making small changes in their villages. A student from Bangladesh reported success applying the Saemol Undam approach in flood-affected areas. Team leader Kim said that a student from Nepal created a cooperative in a struggling village, which doubled their income. The most impressive story was from a student from Afghanistan. They started rebuilding a war-torn village using the Saemol Undam method. It's a challenging situation, but the villagers are slowly changing. The student sent this report. It was written in the letter. We're holding on with the spirit we learned in Musinba village that together, we can make it. Every time I hear news like this, it touches my heart. The small hope that started in Musinba village is spreading all over the world. The Korean government was encouraged by these results and announced a significantly larger plan. It's a long-term project called Global Saemol 2003. By 2030, we aim to spread the Saemol spirit to 10,000 villages worldwide. The Korean president announced this at the GCP summit. Now, we'll give back the love Korea has received from the world. This announcement grabbed the attention of the media everywhere. Major outlets, including CNN, BBC, and the New York Times, focused on Korea's new Saemol diplomacy. The New York Times said Korea is demonstrating a new kind of soft power not through culture, but through a philosophy that is moving the world. Personally, the happiest moment was reuniting with the people of Musinba village. I revisited the town after 2 years, and it had undergone significant changes. Mr. Stone. As soon as Jean-Baptiste saw me, he ran over and gave me a big hug. It had been such a long time. At the entrance of the village, a large sign announced that it was the birthplace of the World Saemol movement. But what struck me even more were the expressions on the villagers' faces. Everyone looked confident and hopeful. Our village has changed so much, hasn't it? Marianga proudly showed me around. And she was right. The roads were nicely paved, the buildings modern, and the parks well maintained. But more than anything, what stood out was the energy of the people. The biggest change is in people's hearts, Emmanuel said. Now 90 years old, he was like the village's spiritual pillar. We finally know we matter. We also visited the village school. The kids were learning on computers. One of them came up to me and said, Sir, I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up. I'm going to build a big hospital in our village. Hearing that brought tears to my eyes. Just a few years ago, they didn't even know what a dream was. The kids were now confidently talking about their future. That night, the village held a welcome party. It was a small celebration that the locals had put together themselves. Without Stanchi, we'd probably still be stuck in despair. Giambattista gave a thank you speech. No, you all did this yourselves, I replied. I just watched over it. But the first spark of hope came from Stan. Marie Angelique added, and Stan was the one who brought the Korean teachers too. That night, I slept in a small guest house in Muzinba village. The night view of the village outside my window was truly breathtaking as the lights lit up one by one the peaceful streets. It was completely different from the hopeless scene a few years back. I found myself reflecting deeply. Reflecting on my first arrival here, I realized that so many great things have changed. The village changed, the people changed, and I changed too. But above all, my perception of Korea as a country underwent a complete transformation. At first, I only saw it as a small country in Asia. I used to think, but now I truly realize what a special country this is. Korea's strength isn't in its economy or technology. It's the faith people have in each other. It's the spirit of never giving up, no matter how tough things get. And it's the kindness of remembering the help they received and passing it on to others. The next morning, I walked around the village with team leader Kim, and we had a conversation. Team leader, you did something amazing. It's not as, he said humbly. This is what these people accomplished. But above all, it was thanks to you opening the door in the first place. I was just lucky. I met a great partner in Korea, he replied. These kinds of things will keep happening, Kim said, hopeful about the future. New villages like Mushinba will pop up all over the world. That's indeed the case, as similar success stories have already been happening in many places. On the last day, the whole village came out to see us off. Please come again. We'll keep growing. Please help villages change just like we did. The kids waved their hands and said hello. Seeing that touched my heart. On the way to the airport, I found myself lost in deep thought. Looking back on the past few years, it felt like a dream. A change that began in one small village is now transforming the entire world. And I became sure of one thing: this is not the end, but just the beginning. More places, more people will be filled with hope. The greatest gift Korea has given the world isn't money or technology. It's the hope that together, we can make it happen. The belief that no matter how tough things get, if you don't give up, there's always a way forward. The minor miracle that began in Muzinba village has now become a beacon of hope around the world, and this hope will keep spreading. The spirit of Korea is changing the world, and I'm genuinely thrilled to be a witness to this change. This is the story of the miracle I saw in Rwanda, of despair. It's been an incredible journey of the Korean spirit transformed by hope. That's all for today's story. Subscribing to a channel helps support the creation of videos. This being Soy from Gamdong Telesayo. I sincerely wish warm happiness fills your homes today as well. Thank you so much for watching the whole long video. I'll be back tomorrow with an even better story. Thanks again.